Everyone's
Hey! Welcome to iCarly!
So if you don't see the camera on you, maybe not.
You okay?
No, I was gonna go like this, but then he would roast me and be like, the camera's not on you, so I have to shut the F up.
Back to another chocolate project talk. Okay, so basically today we're going to be talking about Black women's sexuality, and I understand that sex is a very taboo topic just in general, and especially within the Black community, and even more taboo within the Black women community. So I'm hoping that this honest conversation of sex will spark another honest conversation about sex and like its bigger meaning to like Black women and yeah. So the first thing that we're gonna talk about is so we're just gonna like jump right into it. So is everybody familiar with like the sex positivity movement?
Could you refresh my memory, please?
Like stuff like Ambrose's slut walk.
Okay.
Women like, do you know like the yoni stones and stuff?
Yes.
Like women like masturbating with like yoni stones.
What are yonis?
They're like this big and they're stones that
Like rocks, like they find on the floor?
no, they're like specifically made.
Oh, okay.
No, but they're they're rigid?
No, it's like.
Oh my god.
Well, okay, she said rock, so I'm like.
I said like stone.
That's a rock.
Okay,
On the ground. I feel like a rock is so like.
And a stone is what? A stone
so
is a
you
big
find a
rock.
stone where?
A stone is a big rock, no?
Yes.
Okay, but so basically the first question is, do you think that kind of like the notion of just sex positivity exists within our community of Black women?
No.
Can you give give us like a realm of what community of Black women we should be speaking about? Because I feel like it's hard to say
Like our age?
like
in its
what
entirety?
environment, like
It's in its entirety.
Like all ages, all communities.
all ages, all communities, all like all through America,
Okay, okay,
Like
more
millennials?
specifically, like okay, our age group of Black women.
Okay, so what we see.
Yeah,
I feel like it's half-half.
Right.
I think we're getting better at it.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. I feel like there's like part of us that still like have the views of like the older generation, like oh like a woman should like do this or they shouldn't do that like regarding sex, and like there's another part of us that are like oh like women should be sexually free and like it doesn't matter, it doesn't define you. So it's kind of like split from what I've seen.
I think it, like, I agree with you, and I think also on social media, sometimes, like, I'll see people who are not down with just letting women claim their bodies and have, like, a sense of agency over their own lives, and I'm like, wait, what century are we living in? Or, oh, you're a maid, or, oh, you're just chatting, basically, to please men, or you're brainwashed, or whatever. Like, I'm always, like, taken aback when I see women putting down other women for literally just living their best lives and doing whatever the fuck they want with their own bodies. So hearing stuff like, oh well, you can't, like, you have to make him work for it, or blah blah blah, blah. Like you can't, like if you want him to take you serious, you can't fuck him like on the first day, or like just things like that, or posting yourself on Instagram, like all of that. I always feel like, yes, men are always degrading women, but I feel like because of this patriarchal society, like it's expected, but then to see women doing the same thing, like it's like, what team are you really on?
Yeah, and it sucks because like when like a girl has sex on the first date, she's seen as like the slut, and the guy's seen like oh like he got some on both sides too, like you know what I mean. So it's like
It takes two to tango.
Yeah.
Exactly, it's like two people.
Like, first of all, I fucked you on the first night. You're a hoe. Not me.
You're a hoe. That's the energy.
I got you.
I got you. Exactly. I got you.
Yes, I got to on the first night.
You're easy. You're easy.
Wow.
What?
So then do you think that like the sex positivity movement is more about like women having the option to like just having like the option to have sex with somebody, or do you think that it's supportive of like, you know, I want to have sex with whoever I want to, and I'm going to have sex with how many people I want to?
Yeah, I think it's more the second one. Like, it's more about like claiming the fact that like your body is your business, and if you want to have sex with somebody, that's your business, and no one else should have the right to like talk down on you for wanting to be sexually liberated. Like, men can do it all the time, and no one says anything. But the minute a girl wants some sexual stimulation, it's an issue.
I also think there's like layers to it. It's like not only is it like just like having sex with another person, there's also like just sex workers and people like that in general. I feel like are entangled into like the movement, which is good. So like whenever I see people on like Twitter who like do like premium Snapchats and stuff, it's like I feel like that is like bringing like about this new, I guess, like sexual revolution. Especially when I see like black, like the ones all on my timeline, usually like black women who are doing them. Like, yes, I love this like sexual reawakening. Like I know in like the black community, people always look down on sex workers, like shippers, shippers, yeah, and just other sex work in general. So I think it's good. That's a more like advanced place we're getting to.
So I also know that within like the sex positivity movement, it's like people have been like reclaiming words like slut and like hoe. So do you think that within our own community those words can be reclaimed, or should they just be like completely like lost from people's vocabulary because they represent such a horrible and like type of thing?
I'm not trying to like compare it to the N-word, it can be reclaimed, but it depends on like who's like telling me these words. Like if it's just like my girls and it's like, oh, you a hoe or you a slut, I'm gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, you too. But if it's like a man telling me this, I'm just like, oh, slow down. Let's like you know what I'm saying? Like let's take a pause. Like what are you trying to infer? Like what are you trying to say? So I feel like it's just like one of those words. It's just like depends on the person and like how comfortable you are with the person and like who like how hard are you gonna take that word?
Yeah, I think like with all or most discriminatory, is that the word?
Yeah.
Like words that should only be reclaimed by the group that will be affected by or used towards.
So do you think that who do you think like upholds, I guess, like the negative context like related or like the negative use of these words? Like do you think that it's other men, or do you think that it's also women?
Like who is like how is the word still like who is like the main demographic
Like using the
like
word
responsible?
badly?
Yeah.
I think men, and then I think women who are feeding into like their
Yeah,
beliefs.
because of like the internalized misogyny.
Yeah.
Those girls would be the ones still calling other women like sluts and hoes and like mean it dead ass.
Like say it with their chest.
Yeah. But to be honest, I feel like I haven't encountered like in my like day-to-day life, like I feel like I don't encounter much like women who will still use like you're a slut and that girl's such a hoe and that girl's such a slut. Like, I feel like I don't see that much anymore, unless there's new vocabulary that I'm just not up to date with. But I feel like people don't use like slut and hoe like as like insults.
They say thought, apparently they say treesh now.
Treat? That's what I mean? I thought it was like a good thing.
No.
Cause you know my face, people like, oh, she a treat. I'm like, oh, okay. I did
What
not
does it
know
mean?
that. It means like a hoe.
It's a very bad.
it means like a whore.
Nasty. Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree with you. So, like, I don't really see it like in my day-to-day life. Like, again, might be new words. I don't know what the generation is. I'm a little old.
I also feel like I see it more on social media.
Yeah,
Like women hating on other women about their sexuality.
Yeah, but they'll find creative ways to do it. They'll
Yeah.
be picky instead.
Yeah. But then I also feel like we probably just don't see it because the people around us aren't using those words. Because you know, like if you're about to call someone a slut or a hoe, you're not going to their face and saying that. Like, you're going to talk to your friends and use that word. If none of us are using it, then I feel like none of us are really going to see it in our lives. Because you know no one's old enough to call you out your name. Like, yeah, no one's old enough to do that.
So, like, I also noticed that, like, a lot of, like, our views are very, like, I don't want to say, like, progressive, but just, like, not very, like, limited. And so, how much of your views do you think have been influenced by your parents?
I would say 25 out of 100. Like, I feel like they set the foundation, but they don't, like, it don't hold me back. Like, it doesn't hold me down. Like I feel like some of my views are mostly like influenced by social media and what like I surround myself around. Most likely, because if you think about it, like I'm only with my parents for like I would say 3 hours out of my day, compared to the time I'm with my friends, teachers, school, peer, like people I work with, things of that sort. So I would say like they only hold like a little bit. I feel like most of my views are mostly like free from like society and the community I surround myself with.
I agree with that to an extent, because like, to like a certain point in your life, parents do have a big influence on you, like how like you think for the rest of your life, and like growing up in my household, like the way my parents think aren't like the way isn't the way I think now. Does that make sense? But like their precious beliefs still like are in the back of my head sometimes, and I have to catch myself when I think a certain way. I'm like, oh no, this isn't how I really think. But this is how I was raised to think. Does that make sense?
So do you think that, like specifically like talking about like your moms, for example, do you think that their views around sex are centered around, I guess, like the way that Black women have been, I guess, portrayed in history involving like sex and like their bodies? Or do you think that it's more like a new age idea?
With our parents?
Yeah, like specifically your moms.
Well, my mom, in my case, like my mom's like very like regarding sex, she's like, oh, like she hasn't explicitly said it, but she's like basically saying like, oh, like your body is like the property of the man. Like you don't like she hasn't explicitly said that, but like she like kind of implied it by the things like she has said, like, oh, like you don't want to like, you don't want people to think a certain way for you. You want people, you want to be taken seriously. Like don't do certain things. Like what will your husband think when you get married, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Wait, sorry, can you say the question one more time?
Like, where do you think that your mom's views of sexuality like have come from?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really feel like my mom's opinions on sex and sexuality have really come from like the like history of Black women's like how Black women are perceived in terms of sexuality. I think it's more just like yeah, I don't think she's thinking about it in that sense. It's more just like how she wants me to be like seen in the world. But I don't really think my mom was really that pressed when it comes to like, I don't know, my mom doesn't like, she doesn't seem like she really cares about me presenting myself for a man. Like it's more like presenting myself just in general, like for like she's always talking about like, oh, because you don't want a job to think that, or like your boss to think that. Like it's more of like she wants me to look professional rather than like look like a wife.
I also think, like, my mom specifically, I'm always kind of surprised that she's very progressive in how she, like, sees sex and how she sees, like, women moving through the world and being, like, autonomous and independent and stuff. I feel like it's probably because of just living in an American context and, like, somehow I guess she's exposed to social media. I don't know how she gets the information she does, but she's always like, do whatever you want, just be smart. But she never really is like, you need to do this for a man, or you need to do this so you can be seen like this. Like she's the, you know, my mom is crazy. Like she's the type that will basically support any and all shenanigans. She's never gonna tell me to not do something. I think it's just like, as long as I'm not putting myself in harm's way or being unsafe or anything like that, then she doesn't really care. 'Cause, yeah, it's not that deep.
Definitely, actually. Same, I agree. I feel like my mom's not like, I wouldn't say like progressive, but she's also not like I wouldn't say she's like your mother where she's like, you should like be doing this, like don't wear that, you know, for like a man, blah 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 and stuff. Like she helps me choose my outfits and stuff. Like she loves like the whole activity. She's just like, you know, yeah, yeah. Both her and my dad, there's like sexy girl, ooh, with their outfits. They'll post me on their Facebooks and stuff. Like they love it. They love it. That's why I'm like, I feel like I get my views from them just because they're so like, they're like the type of people that are like whatever, like just don't like die type of thing. So, yeah.
I agree. Like my parents are the same. Sometimes my mom be like, oh, show this and show that, and then sometimes she's like, okay, cover it up now. And I don't know. It depends on the day I catch her. But for the most part, my parents are like pretty chill.
Like they might make like little comments, but they never told me to change. Like they'd be like, you
Yeah, like
Yeah,
something that's mad short. She'd be like,
This is a little short.
she'd be like, you have something under that dress.
Exactly. Stuff like that.
But like she'll never be like change your outfit because she knows I look cute.
Exactly.
Right,
At the end of the day.
I'm a bad bitch.
Low-key, she be picking out outfits for me, like saying, oh, you should wear this instead. Like, sis, what?
Exactly.
My skirt is here. Why do you want it here?
Yeah, my mom be trying to dress like me. So she's like, where'd you get that skirt?
No,
You want
right.
it?
Right? We gotta do
Right.
all together. Like, I be stuff in front of her and she'd be like, ooh, that's cute. Meanwhile, it's like, she'd be like, that's cute.
So then, do you think that you've been, I guess, like, taught sexual agency, or it's something that you kind of, like, had to discover on your own?
What do you mean sexual agency? Can you define that too?
Basically being like, you know, this is my body, I can do whatever I want with my body. Type of energy.
I feel like it's something I'm still learning, but I've definitely developed it more since coming to college.
Agreed. I don't feel like I was ever taught because my parents never really talked about sex. Like, I never like had a sex talk or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
just kind of
Like,
I don't know. Like they just know I have. Oh, I don't know if they know. Nah, they probably know. But like it is what it is. It's life. But I feel like when it comes to sexual agency, like I feel like I'm still learning as well. But it's definitely like progressed as I've been in college and stuff.
I feel like I have an understanding of it, but I don't know. I don't know what it is for a fact. Like I feel like sexual agency. I feel like as I come into like my 20s and things of that sort, like I feel like I'm still gonna learn more and grow from it. But I have an understanding of who I am, like of my sexual orientation at this age.
So moving like towards like more specific teaching. So how do you think that like I guess like well I'm not gonna assume that everybody here has had sex, but I think that how do you think your parents have like taught you to think about like I guess like your first time, or I guess like what they would teach you like before they assume that you had sex?
The only thing we ever talked about regarding sex was that you should wait till marriage. But other than that, it wasn't like, oh yeah.
I don't know. My parents have never said like anything about waiting till marriage or like your body's a temple or anything like that. Like it wasn't until like after I think I was like 17. My mom saw I was taking birth control and she was just like, "Do you have sex? I mean, you're old enough, so but just do you do it?" And I didn't tell her. I said no, but I don't know. Like I feel like she's made it like clear that like it's okay if I'm not doing what like maybe she or other people have done before.
So, okay, on the topic of virginity. So, do you guys think that virginity is a social construct?
Yes.
I would like to. But like I said before, it's still something I'm trying to process since coming to college. I'm not sure what I think about it at the moment. But
I just think the fact that like synonyms for like losing your virginity or like deflowering or like just losing like your innocence and stuff. That
Yeah.
literally just like shows the flaw in like virginity, especially
I hate that word.
especially when applied to like young women. I think it's so problematic. I feel like we should just eradicate the concept of virginity. Like why is like the first time you have sex it's such like a complicated like thing. It's like it's literally just sex the first time. Like I feel like people make it seem like you're losing your innocence, you're losing so much of yourself. And I feel like that's so problematic to young girls because then they hold on to this idea of virginity as like it has to be really, really like it has to be really special. Like can't just be like, and it just damages I feel like sexual perceptions like to go on like for years to come. That's why I just think virginity is a terrible concept. Like
Like within our smaller community, how do you think like virginity is like perceived?
Smaller community.
Like of Black women.
I wouldn't know. Like I feel like when I was like back in like high school and like back in where I'm from, I feel like virginity was like such a like a oh my gosh she's not a virgin. All like things like that type of thing. Now that I'm in college, it's like I don't know if you did it. I don't know if you didn't do it. But it's just like it's not none of my business. I feel like it's like it's not my place. You kind of be like oh my god you're not a virgin.
So, in what ways do you think that our views about virginity, I guess, impact our thoughts about like sexual freedom?
Well, that might like restrict them from actually pursuing that because, like, no one, like the way society is made up, like no one really wants to lose like that part of themselves, and like if virginity representing like innocence and like something that like it's like a milestone in your life according to society. So like I feel like entering that situation, people like women specifically won't want to like exactly like give that up just yet. If we're limiting their sexual agency.
I think it also depends on like the context and how they lost their virginity. Like if they maybe like if their first time was terrible, like maybe with a terrible person or like something terrible happened, then maybe they're just gonna be like, I'm weary of it now. But like if they're constantly having partners that they feel comfortable with, like or if they just I don't know feel more confident in themselves, I don't see how like one would make the other one like bad. I don't know.
I feel like in like for young women being like losing your virginity, it's like they see sex as something that happens to them rather than something that happens like together. Like rather it's like something you do together with someone. And I feel like that's where like the problem comes from because like not like when you go on and you have sex, like I feel like it'll make the girl feel like just like dirty. It's like it's not something that happens to me. Like I lost like my virginity. I lost my innocence. Like it's something that happens to me, and like they don't see sex as like a mutual thing. And I feel like that's where the problem in like sexual freedom comes because you're just being like it just like won't be settling. Like casual sex, I feel like people are so afraid to have casual sex, and I feel like part of that comes from like the idea of like losing your virginity and like losing your innocence and like stuff like that.
I think it also comes into like people not realizing that their body is their own. Like if they're afraid to have casual sex, then it's like, well, I'm just a passive participant in whatever is going on. Like something is being done to me. Like my body belongs to them in this however many minutes it's gonna take for the man to come. But like other than and how girls are always like fixated on, oh, I need to keep my body count at like this level because if I have sex with this person, then it's gonna be blah blah blah. But like if you know that your body is your own, then it doesn't matter what you have decided to do with it or like who you have decided to do whatever with.
So on the topic of like body count, and I know that like mentioned earlier, you're talking about like women who are like I guess like feed or say certain things in order to like seem more appealing to men. So then how do you think that kind of like wifey pick me attitude affects I guess like the way like the idea of like sexual freedom and like being sexually liberated?
I think like some girls end up lying about their body count, or they'll just end up saying like, oh, I'm a virgin to make it seem like they're more appealing. Like, and I think guys have caught on now because then they'll actually start asking like, oh, are you sure or something, or they'll ghost you because they think you're lying, or because I don't know, I guess there are like underlying things with that. So I think like, yeah, again, because they think body count is so problematic for whatever reason, like they decide to just lie or lower it or think that they're more appealing because they haven't had as many sexual partners.
Yeah, I think it's a really like clear thing to see that girls who have lower body counts or no body, like sometimes they like to put down girls who are like actively and like freely having sex with people who are not their boyfriend or husband or whatever. Like I feel like they just try to put people down just to make them feel like, well, not everyone can have sex with me, so I feel like I'm better. Like, yeah.
So who do you think like these like I guess like not roles but kind of like expectations of women, who do you think are upholding these expectations of being like just the idea of like, oh, a pick me, like you having to like do these certain things in order to be appealing? Like who do you think are upholding these I guess like expectations of women?
Society.
Yeah.
And I think it's also very generational. I feel like it's things that are passed down. Like, we didn't wake up one morning and just like, oh my God, I need somebody to pick me as their wife. It was told to us that we have to dress a certain way, talk a certain way, act a certain way. That way you could be able to look pleasable to a man. I feel like it goes back to like the time of like of our ancestors and things of that sort. I feel like a lot of people don't look into that. Like, the reason why there's a cycle of this type of like pick me, wifey type of thing is because we keep allowing it. Like, our mothers told us this, like our mothers' mothers told them that, and it's just like that.
I agree. I feel like as for little girls, I guess, like you're taught to like you're gonna have kids one day. Like you're given babies, toy babies at like 3 years old to play with and like feed and change the diaper, and like you get like purses and like you dress up. Like it's always just like domestic things, I guess, that you're given to play with as a young age. So like when you grow up, like you think like that is what I'm looking forward to, like just the marriage aspect or like being a mom or being like something within like a household per se. And like I feel like that like aspect of society kind of plays a role into like how girls see themselves when they get older, because then as they get older they're like, well, I've always thought about this since I was a little kid, of being a wife, of being a mom, of being this and that. So like when they're older, that's like what is driving them to like be a pick-me, I guess, because they're like, I want to be chosen, like I want to live out this idea or fantasy I've had in my head, that my mom put in my head, that everyone has put in my head since I was a kid.
But I also think it's like, it's ultimately guys that control it, I think, because it's one thing to like have a mentality, but if you don't see that someone is saying like whatever mentality you have is the right one or it's the attractive one, then you're not going to continue to think it. Like, yeah, parents will teach their daughters and their sons the same thing, but you still have the choice to grow up and like end up denying certain things that you were raised to think. And I think because guys still think that like, I need a nurturer, I need someone who's gonna take care of my babies, I need someone who's gonna cook for me and shit like that. Like, if a guy is saying I need this and you want that guy, then you're gonna do those things, or you're gonna think that this is what I need to do in order to get the guy. But unless there's no criteria, then you're not gonna try to mold yourself into something if no one wants it. So I think like at the end of the day, it's whoever you're trying to attract that is controlling what you have to be.
Yeah, to go along with what you're saying, I was gonna say that I think it's like a combination between like patriarchy and like a woman's insecurities, because like if a woman doesn't like recognize her worth and like recognize that she's in ownership of like her own person, like combined with like a man saying like, oh, like you should be like this, or this is how, like this is the only, like if you're not like this, then you're not gonna be with me, or like you're not gonna be with anyone like good enough for, like good enough in general. So I feel like those factors kind of like contribute to the upholding of these issues.
So, I know that like sex is a very taboo topic within like the Black community. So so how do you think like the lack of conversation is like affecting like our, I guess, like romantic relationships with like other Black men or other Black women?
How the lack of
Conversation around sex.
affects relationships.
Yes. And with other, like within, I guess, like the Black community.
I feel like it's like a big part of like when somebody like, is like trying to lust after you. It's like, what do you want from me? It's like, do you only want me for my body or do you want me for my mind? I feel like that's like what I think about when you pose that question. For the most part, yeah.
I feel like in terms of like talking about sex, not like in an actual like I want to have sex with you, but like just casual like discussion about sex and sexuality and stuff. I feel like that doesn't really happen between men and women often, like in a setting that's not like controlled or like you have to talk about this type of stuff. Like I feel like that doesn't really happen, and I guess that can kind of create like a bad understanding of like a bad or like not like they're not on the same page of their understanding of like sex and sexuality between the two sexes.
I feel like my experience has been like I would, I guess, be in situations with guys, whether it was casual or not, and because I'm very assertive about what I want and what I need sexually, they would kind of get offended because I feel like the lack of conversation created this like perception that, you know, sex is done to the woman, so there's not really much say that you can have. or that if you do have a say, then you must have been, you know, fucking it up like everywhere and anywhere. You know what I mean? Like it, and they kind of like, yeah, they just felt uncomfortable because I was just like, you know, I don't want you to do this. Like, this doesn't feel good. Like, get off me. You know? Like, they would be like, oh, like, how dare you? Because it was kind of like they expected me to just like
do
take
whatever.
it. Like,
Yeah.
they were giving me sex or
Yeah.
doing sex to me instead of it being like a two-way street.
Yeah.
Do you think that there are like these like sexual like racial biases in society?
Oh, yeah. I feel like a lot of the times, I don't know about black guys. I don't know. I feel like people in general just find like black women to be more promiscuous when that's not always the case. When it's actually like the opposite sometimes. And it's like kind of annoying. Just saying, yeah. Especially on this campus, like, yeah, just like the stuff that you hear and like that you actually see versus like what people think of you. It's like the disparity is there.
The Jezebel stereotype.
Yeah.
Very real. Very, very real.
I feel like here, like, I feel like in society, it's very like black women are like hypersexual. They're always looked at like as sexual beings, and it's always like about their body and all that stuff. And like if they're dressed a certain type of way, then they're looked down at. But like if a white girl dresses a certain type of way, like it's okay. But I feel like on this campus, the conversation I've heard is actually opposite. Like,
But with what kind of guys are talking?
that's true. But it's just
never
like
hear what the white
that's
Yeah.
true. I don't know about the other men, but some of the black men have other, like, they think of the white woman as the like sexual ones and the black woman as like the wives, which really is just interesting. Like yeah.
But I think maybe it's because like they're both in the same race. Like I feel like black men never, I don't want to say never, but like how they don't move in a way where they expect black women to be promiscuous or to be the quote unquote sluts or whores, and maybe that's because of how they expect black women to act, to be respectable or whatever. But or maybe it's also because they're just around more black women. They have the sisters, they have the cousins, they have the aunts and mothers and stuff. But whenever, I agree with you, gay chicks, like whenever it's a white guy, it'll be like I don't know, like that's
they'll expect
yeah,
more.
that is what they're looking for when they interact with you.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing that they see you as being able to do, basically.
So final question. So do you guys really think that you're, I guess, like very sex positive? And if so, how do you express your sex positivity?
Again, I feel like I'm still learning. Like I'm still trying to not conform to society's standards and expectations of me, and just realize that like a lot of this stuff is social concepts, and like my body's my body. I can do what I want with it, whether it's nothing or everything, and I can dress how I want, act how I want, and that shouldn't change people's perception of me or value of like myself.
Basically.
Yeah, I think not only like personally like being like sex positive, but also making sure like I'm never like shaming anyone else's like sexual like, and I guess like just sexual endeavors. Like I'm never type down on people who do like premium Snapchat, people who sell nude, people who do like never ever like judge anyone who does anything that's like sexually liberating. Like it's not my place.
And I think also like inserting myself in spaces where other people don't do the same, like because people love fucking slut shaming. So if I'm around, I like to make sure that I'm not gonna let it happen.
I think that I guess like the way that I express my like sex positivity is I guess having conversations like these and like being very comfortable. Like I'm a big supporter. Like if you ask me a question about sex, like I want to like tell you, like because I feel like I was always like very like curious about sex, but I felt uncomfortable to ask somebody who I had thought had sex, because I thought it was such like a bad thing to ask somebody, or I thought like it just wasn't my place, and so I just was kind of like, well, if I don't know anything, I don't know anything. And making other people feel comfortable about their sexuality and what they want to do. Like I feel like a lot of times people would like see different people wanting to do different stuff that I guess they don't do in their own home, and like they'll be like, oh, that's nasty, they do that. And I'll just be like, no, like if they want to do it, if they like that, you know, go off, do what you gotta do. Bye guys.